Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. If you guys want to just talk, if you can, just step out so we can get it together.
Okay, so today we're going to be presenting the New York Symphony Hall, which is located on Broad Street, about a mile and a half from the Rutgers Business School. One of the questions is the client asked us is, should there be a Hall of Fame put in the New York Symphony Hall, which has a lot of empty space? It would be called the National African American Arts and Entertainment. And throughout this presentation, you'll see NSH, which is for the New York Symphony Hall, and NAAAE, which is for the Hall of Fame for the African. Let me introduce my colleagues as well. Nick is on the end, Rohit, as well as Igor. And I'm Nima. Rushing through this. In terms of the way we organized our group presentation, we kind of have a funnel, so we're going to have an overview in the beginning, and then go towards the very specifics, the history, the SWOT analysis, our recommendations. And then in terms of the client goals, 3 things that need to be answered was, one is what were the best practices of other Hall of Fames? Second thing is in terms of marketing, how can the New York Symphony Hall attract more students, more Newark residents, and more tourists from outside New Jersey? Second, how to use some of the unused space. You're going to see some pictures throughout this presentation of some of the vacancies within the New York Symphony Hall. You can literally fit maybe 7 or 8 different groups within the Symphony Hall at any one time. Because of the amount of space and the amount of options they have and venues within that space.
All right, so I'm going to give you a little overview, and then we'll go into the SWOT analysis. The Newark Symphony Hall was established in 1925 by the Shriners. There is an amazing theater aspect, and that is now called the Sarah Auditorium. And they also had in the lower corner another ballroom that had a second tier where you can overlook, and that was a private ballroom. It started off named as the Swamp Temple. It was part of the Roaring Twenties. There were amazing galas and affairs here all the time, and then, after the Depression, they kind of went into like vaudeville and the talkies and became like a central movie theater aspect. One of the biggest strengths of the New York Symphony Hall is its history. When you're looking at putting a Hall of Fame, you can just take the people who've actually performed there and make a Hall of Fame. You can go back to Leonard Bernstein and the Bolshoi Ballet, Count Basie, Chuck Berry, everybody's in the 50s and 60s, and comedy acts, legends like Richard Pryor been there, and most recently Cat Williams, and of course Sarah Vaughan, who is the namesake for the auditorium. Another strength is like Nima had said, is the flexibility. It's not just the auditorium, but you also have the terrace ballroom, which can seat up to 1,000 people. So they have gala affairs, weddings can be held there. They have big New Year's bashes. It's amazing space. It's 60 by 80, and plus they have 2 overlooking areas on the side. Also, that private ballroom that I discussed that was 2-tiered is now the second one from the bottom. That is now a black box theater, so you can have performances there. Right now they're in negotiations with Danny Glover to get 2 performances there to get more people in the seats. And then also they have smaller areas where you can have banquets and smaller affairs. So you can have events there from 40 people to 2,700 people without a problem. In addition, there's also a ballet studio. There's events are held in the lobby. We'll go into that next. And there's a completely unused 3rd and 4th floor area, and that's where they're proposing to put the Hall of Fame aspect. So the next strength is the architecture. The pictures do not do it justice. It is amazing inside. When you walk in, you're just blown away. All of this that you're seeing in the lobby, the larger picture, that's all marble. It's just all inlaid. The decorations are just fabulous. You can see the detail work. And when they built the Salon Temple, they spared no expense. Everything is gorgeous. The second in the middle is the chandelier hanging from the ceiling of the auditorium. And on the bottom, you can see the detail work that's in the terrace ballroom. So this is great because if you want to put a Hall of Fame, you want to be able to, once it's complete, it's like this is going to be also awe-inspiring. We're talking about Provost. He had mentioned that you know, if we invest $30 million, it seems like a lot, but if you try to rebuild this building as is with the materials they used, it would cost over $200 million. So it is a venue that is worth restoring. All right, so some of the weaknesses that the venue has. Right now, the NSH has very low awareness. We did some market research, and some of the local venues, only about 24% of the respondents ever heard of the Newark Symphony Hall. So that's something that we need to work with doing marketing. A lot of that had been taken when the NJ-PAC moved in, and we'll discuss that a little later. Another weakness is there are a lot of repairs. The building was built in 1925. You know, it's old. You know, it's almost 90 years old. So they have issues with elevators, boilers, major repairs that need capital for funding. And that's the next weakness is funding. Part of when they were doing the finance, some of the debt wasn't captured as it should have been. So they have some outstanding debt. So they're using some of the funding that they're getting now to pay off the existing debt while trying to maintain the building as is. And then the location, right now it's a weakness because there's a lot of dilapidated buildings around there. So it's, you know, to draw people there when they have the nice shiny center of town. But the good point is that seems to be changing because people are investing in that area. Shaquille O'Neal has started to invest in some properties, and they're putting loft apartments there. So we're hoping that the center of town continues to move down Broad Street, so this will be a viable area, and it's very close to Lincoln Park, so it could be a big anchor institution and an asset. The opportunities are there. This can be a cultural hub. You can see that, you know, they have the ballet studio, theater, arts, music. It can take the existing, like the jazz that's Newark was famous for, and then leverage that and continue to build acts. When you put in the Hall of Fame, now you have a potential national recognition. And again, this, if you see the inside, you know, even with the little repairs, this is something that someone can come from another place and say, wow, this is all inspired. And again, it could be an anchor institution. It's something that Newark, it's uniquely Newark that they can center around. The threats, again, when the NJ-PAC moved in, it's a brand new facility. They have local parking, easy to get to. That really put a dent into the success of the Newark Symphony Hall. Also, you have other smaller venues popping up, jazz clubs, you know, even the Coffee Cave. They have poetry readings that are taking the entertainment dollar away from someone going to the Newark Symphony Hall. Again, I discussed before, the threats is they're usually, you know, they need a lot of grant money because they're not getting a lot of, you know, funds from performances. So if they were to lose that grant money, then that would put them in a serious predicament. So I'm going to hand it over.
So we took a look at the target assessment. I think the natural thing is look at what we currently have locally, which is the local college students, the Newark and surrounding area residents, as well as the commuters that kind of go in the around surrounding area. We also conducted some market research we will go into really quickly, but we wanted to know what do people look for in a venue, in a show. What are their experiences with other Hall of Fames, because we're assessing Hall of Fame, and then gauge some reactions in the interest almost for the National African American Engineering Hall of Fame. So there are currently 3 major schools. You guys already know this. Other people have mentioned it today. You know, the typical college circuit can help put New York Symphony Hall on the map, including comedy shows, improv performances. You know, these are things that performers can test out their material before playing at a bigger venue, intercollegiate events, as well as, you know, we can use a student pass season ticket discounts to get the interest levels up. New York residents, you know, there was a research conducted by the New York Symphony Hall amongst the Newark residents. And, you know, I thought the quote summarized it really well, that, you know, NJ-PAC and Prudential Center are located in Newark, but they don't belong to the people of Newark. And the think that's a very powerful quote, right? So there is that cachet of people who identify with the New York Symphony Hall. It could be a beacon of a community center with family events, discounts, admissions to key events, so and so on and so forth. For ex-New York customers, I think there is a perception of New York, as we all know, that is not so favorable. But if there are performances that are happening on the weekends, holidays, school vacations, we will be able to draw crowds. And we can advertise in a New Jersey Transit path. We have to fix some ideas that people are looking for, like the proximity to parking. We'll talk about during some of the research we've done. And try to kind of mitigate that New York perception. So we did a market research study. We kind of used an insight that we gained from talking to the National Toy Hall of Fame, that majority of their business comes from a very regional area around them. So we wanted to also kind of survey people who are from the New York, New Jersey locales. We arranged a good, decent diversity age groups from 18 to, I believe, 64. And these are people who are engaged in arts and attend shows, museums, and events quite frequently throughout the year. Distance is not an issue. People don't mind traveling for over 20 miles. They prefer a smaller size venue, intimate and mid-size, so that plays to our advantage because that's the type of venues that we have available at the New York Symphony Hall. There are certain things that kind of struck as important: modern facilities, proximity to parking, access to public transportation, resonated highly on people's preferences, and it's something that is part of the weaknesses of the New York Symphony Hall. So that the modern facilities, they're modernizing their facilities currently. They're also repaving their parking lots. They're partnering with a big parking lot across the street. So there are opportunities that are helping out kind of mitigate those factors. And I'll turn off to Rocky to talk about some Hall of Fame that we discussed.
So before I start off with my part, I'm from India and I've always believed that India is a place of historical, beautiful palaces. And I thought New York is nowhere really close to the historical buildings that are there in India. But when I went to this place, I was literally blown away. I was like, how could this place not even run? And this is undoubtedly one of the beautiful places I've been to. And the management feels that the Hall of Fame is a solution to the problem of Symphony Hall. But before we go into feasibility of whether a Hall of Fame is really going to work or no, we thought we could compare it with a couple of Hall of Fame that are doing and see what we could replicate and see how it goes. So we've taken two Hall of Fames, one large Hall of Fame and one Hall of Fame which is similar to Symphony Hall, and see what we could get out of them. So the large Hall of Fame that we took was Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, located at Cleveland, Ohio. It is dedicated archiving the history of best artists and producers in the music industry. So the economic impact it has created here is tremendous. The total number of visitors is 460,600 per year. The revenue that it could generate was $11.9 million and net profit of $1.46 million. So the jobs it created is 950 and the economic impact of $100 million. A company that is running at a net profit of $1.46 million could create an economic impact of $100 million, which is tremendous. So marketing strategy. When Todd at one instance said that our mission is to tell the story of rock and roll and why it's important through social media. To some we are a classroom and to others we are a museum. It's about establishing a credibility and understanding the caliber of work we do here. They realize that the future is social media marketing and they're investing a lot of money in social media marketing. They also do a lot of PR and advertising, but more than that they're investing more in social media. They have tremendous following on social media, in Facebook and Twitter, and they've completely revamped their website to make sure that it's more interactive. A lot of videos and photo galleries are placed in it, so that people are more attracted to the website. And these are a lot of things that increasing following on Facebook and Twitter is something that Symphony Hall could do because there's not a lot of presence that Symphony Hall has on social media. So the other venue that we took was a smaller venue. It was National Toy Hall of Fame. It's located at Rochester, New York. It recognizes the contributions of toys and games, especially the ones that have been sustained throughout a lot of time. For example, chessboard and roller skate boards. The annual visitor volume is 560,000. But this might look as a huge number, but then the problem with the National Toy Hall of Fame is a lot of people who come to the Hall of Fame are people who come to the museum, and it's only repeat customers. They just go through if they come to the museum. They do not come to the Hall of Fame as a separate entity. And currently they are making even, but then they have a lot of operation costs of about $1 million. A big disadvantage that they have is they don't have a lot of donations. There's no private equity that is supporting them. There's not a lot of public services that are supporting them. 5% of the total revenue that they get is through these donations, which is very low when compared to a lot of other Hall of Fames out there. The marketing strategy, it took almost 11 years for National Toy Hall of Fame to be recognized and to get to a break-even situation. And that happened after the national coverage rose and it became popular on a national scale. They do not have any specific promotion outside PR or induction ceremony, especially for the Hall of Fame. They do PR for the museum as a whole, but nothing much for the Hall of Fame. The website has been doing well, but then they are not able to convert the number of visitors from the website to their Hall of Fame. And 90% of their visitors to the Hall of Fame are from New York State. What is it that